In a hidden corner of the Appalachian forest, where sunlight filtered through ancient oak canopies like golden threads, there existed a small town called Silent Valley. No one remembered exactly when the town first appeared, only that for generations its residents had lived quietly, as if the world had forgotten them entirely. They spoke during daylight hours, but once the sun set, not a single word was uttered. Children were taught from an early age, night is a time for silence, to listen to things that daylight cannot speak. In every home hung a mirror by the window, not for looking, but for watching. These mirrors weren't sold at any store, nor made by anyone outside the town. They were all crafted by the same person, Edgar, the last mirror maker who lived at the far end of town. Edgar lived alone in a weathered wooden house. No one knew his exact age. Some said he'd lived more than a lifetime. Each mirror he created was unique. Frames carved from aged oak bore strange symbols no one could decipher. The mirror's surface appeared crystal clear, yet held depths like gazing into an ancient well. People believed that if your mind was at peace, the mirror would reflect only gentle light. But if you harbored secrets, the mirror would know. This story begins when 11-year-old Emma and her mother moved to Silent Valley at the end of autumn. Emma's father had recently died in an unexplained accident. Her mother, a thin, quiet woman, thought leaving the city might help them both heal. They moved into a house that had been abandoned for years, and as was the town's custom, one of Edgar's mirrors was hung in the front window. Emma was intelligent, curious, and particularly sensitive. She wasn't afraid of darkness or forest, but from the very first night, Emma felt something was wrong. At dusk, all voices in the town ceased entirely. No dogs barking, no conversations, only the sound of wind through tree branches and occasionally soft tapping sounds like fingernails against glass coming from the mirror at the window. A week later, on a night with a dim moon, Emma woke in the middle of the night. She looked toward the window and saw the mirror no longer reflected the familiar darkness. Instead, there was a misty haze, then a vague image. A girl, identical to herself, standing with her back turned, facing a wooden wall. The girl's shadow in the mirror tilted her head slightly, as if hearing Emma's thoughts, then raised her hand, writing something with her finger on the glass surface. But no words appeared. Only condensation formed in the shape of a finger gliding softly across the surface. Emma was terrified, about to call for her mother, but remembered. Her mother had warned her never to speak at night. So she lay back down, pulling the blanket over her head, but the image, the girl in the mirror, haunted her thoughts until morning. The next morning, she told her mother. Her mother sat silent, her hand tightening around her teacup. "Don't look into the mirror after sunset, sweetheart. The person in there isn't always yourself." Emma began investigating. She questioned the adults in town, but they all said the same thing. Stay away from Edgar's house. This only made her more curious. She started watching the wooden house at the end of town. During the day, Edgar rarely came outside, but at night, pale blue light seeped through the cracks of his door, and occasionally whispers drifted out as if many people were speaking at once. But those voices didn't sound human. One rainy afternoon, Emma gathered all her courage and approached Edgar's house. Surprisingly, the door opened. Edgar, tall, thin, with silver hair like silk, looked at her with eyes like glass. Not angry, not surprised, just a gaze as if he'd been waiting for her for a long time. "You've seen the girl in the mirror, haven't you?" Edgar asked, his voice deep and gentle, like wind through the forest. Emma nodded. He invited her inside. Within was another world entirely. Hundreds of mirrors of every shape lined the walls, but none reflected accurately. Some showed only tree shadows, others reflected oceans. Some showed people reading books, though no one in the room was doing so. Edgar explained, "Each mirror is a doorway. It reflects not just appearances, but thoughts. Some imprison forgotten things. Some preserve parts that people want to hide." "What about the mirror at my house?" Emma asked. "That one is a shadow mirror. It reflects the deepest fear in one's mind. If you can't face it, you'll gradually lose a part of yourself." Edgar told her about his past, how he once made mirrors for the royal palace. But after his wife died in a fire, he discovered that the mirrors he created began reflecting what others wanted to conceal. He left that world, found Silent Valley, and since then only made mirrors for those who needed to see the truth. But he also established a rule. No one may speak at night so as not to disturb what is imprisoned within the mirrors. Emma returned home with her head spinning. But she wasn't afraid of Edgar. Instead, she saw him as a guardian of forgotten memories. That night, she again dreamed of the girl in the mirror. This time, the shadow turned around. Still her, but with eyes black as ink and a face silent as stone. The girl in the mirror extended her hand, as if inviting her in. Emma jerked awake to find herself standing before the mirror. Her hand had touched the glass surface. A bone-chilling cold traveled from her fingertips to her heart. She couldn't move. The shadow in the mirror smiled, a sorrowful smile, then began stepping closer from the other side of the mirror. Just then, a cracking sound rang out. The bedroom door burst open. Edgar appeared, holding a shard of mirror that gleamed blue. He placed the shard in the center of the large mirror, and all the images within shattered like disturbed water. Emma collapsed. Edgar caught her, placed his hand on her forehead, and said, "You've carried too much pain from your father. The mirror reflects the part you cannot let go." She began to cry. For the first time since her father's death, she sobbed uncontrollably, like opening the valve on a pressure tank. Edgar let her be, asking nothing. The next morning, Emma woke on a chair by Edgar's fireplace, but he was no longer there. In the mirror workshop remained only a single mirror, silver frame, surface clouded and dim. When she looked into it, she saw only herself, normal, no dark shadows, no strange images. But beneath the mirror frame was carved a small line of text. Those who look in mirrors must learn to turn and face themselves. Edgar had vanished. No one in town knew where he'd gone. But from then on, there were no more whispers in the night. The mirror in Emma's house shone clear, reflecting only warm yellow lamplight. She and her mother began talking more, both during the day and at night, even if just in whispers. The townspeople still kept their habit of silence, but for Emma, this no longer felt burdensome. Years later, Emma became a mirror maker. She didn't make mirrors for reflection, but mirrors for listening. Each mirror she created carried a fragment of memory, not to judge, but to remind that everyone has their dark side, but also light if they dare to face it. People say that on nights with a full moon, if you go to the old house at the end of town and look into the single remaining mirror there, you'll see the shadow of an old man sitting at a table, polishing mirrors by hand, silent, patient, and never looking at his own reflection. Because sometimes to help others see the truth, you must accept disappearing from your own reflection.